Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and carve into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I am JD.
And I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
And today, we're covering The Mother of Tears, the final film in Argento's The Three Mothers trilogy. If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then follow us on your favorite podcast app.
Yep.
You can also subscribe to us at Brainworms Presents on YouTube, and make sure that you click the bell afterwards.
Do it.
We have a website, sorta, but it does the trick.
It's true.
We give you brainworms.com, and there you can find the link to our Patreon so you can directly support the show, as well as a link to our Funky Fresh Discord.
All true.
And I just want to say, happy Halloween, everybody.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Happy Halloween weekend. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
What kind of slutty little costume are you going to be wearing this year, Kane?
Probably, and this is what my guess is, I'll probably be wearing some black jeans.
Okay.
Probably a doom metal t-shirt.
Right. All right. That sounds about like every day.
Depending on what the weather looks like, I might also be wearing a doom metal hoodie.
Gotcha. And Joe, what kind of slutty little number will you have on?
I will be a French maid.
Nice. Nice.
That's about what I expected.
I didn't want to have to go buy a whole new thing, so I'm just using what I have on hand, you know?
Yeah, you got to recycle what you did last year, you know?
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna be
it's for
Jason
Halloween.
from.
That's why I have it.
Wait, what?
What? Nothing. Keep talking.
yeah, what, you're going to be Jason?
I'm Jason almost every year. I've got this sweet sort of. I wouldn't say it's movie quality, but it's a pretty sweet Friday the 13th Jason mask.
Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, and that's my typical go-to. And I'll usually find like a kind of like a work shirt or a flannel or something, and from the waist down, I pretty much dressed like Jason the other 364 days a year, so...
Yeah, you know, I'll be honest, Halloween still doesn't feel a lot like Halloween. Like, the
this
weather's
year
changing.
especially, it's pissing me off. This year, I'm already seeing, like, Thanksgiving shit and Christmas shit, and, like,
Yeah,
it's
I noticed
like...
that, too, that the Halloween items went out of sale very quickly.
It goes in waves, okay? So, like, I noticed that every few years, you get a big Halloween. Everybody's stoked about it. And then you get a year like this year where, like, Halloween just gets swept under the rug quickly.
You know, there's probably a lot of factors that go into why that's happening.
Okay.
The first one is probably the global pandemic.
But that was happening last year. Last year was a much bigger Halloween than this year.
Didn't feel like it for me.
Oh, man, here in Chicago, like, last Halloween, it felt like a much bigger deal.
Right, and I think that a lot of people got sick from that bigger deal. And so this year, you know, obviously the idiots are going to be doing what idiots do, but I think that the people that are in the know, you know, and that trust science are like, yeah, let's take it easy.
Right.
There's a lot of factors into why Halloween feels a little weird, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
You're right.
We're here to talk about Dario Argento's The Mother of Tears, which, I'll be honest, I went into this thinking it was going to be a giant bag of diarrhea.
A dirty, wet rag.
I was expecting the worst, and I was pleasantly surprised. I had a real good time watching this movie.
I would say this was a lot of fun, and the special effects surprised my pants off. I mean, I don't wear pants while I podcast anyway, but I'm just saying.
Right. So why don't you go ahead and talk about
Sex, baby.
The Mother of Tears, not sex.
Let's talk about you and me. All right. Let's see here. Mother of Tears came out in 2007. It was released initially in Toronto, September 6th, 2007. Then in Italy, October 8th. And then June 6th in 2008 in the United States. Mother of Tears had a runtime of 102 minutes with a budget of $3.5 million, and it grossed $3.1 million at the box office. So a little disappointing to come up short, but...
people didn't like it that much.
And I know we're going to get into some speculation as to why that may be as the podcast progresses, but anyway, it was directed by legendary horror giallo filmmaker Dario Argento. He is now 81 years old and a true master of fright, a living legend, and we've said so much about him that I'm not going to say anymore. Right. I'm just going to...
If you don't know who Dario Argento is, and you've been listening to us, there's something wrong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to change your life. Do something. Get better sleep.
What you gonna do with your life?
So,
I want to rock.
I want to rock.
Fucking dorks.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, this film was produced by Dario's brother, Claudio. Well, it had a few producers, actually, but Claudio is 3 years younger, and he produced a number of films directed by Dario. They even co-produced a few films together, including this film. And we've talked about Claudio a fair bit as well. This film was also co-produced with Marina Berlusconi. She was born in Milan, August 10th of 1966. Mostly a business person, turned up in Forbes magazine the same year this film came out, 2007, and she was noted as the 33rd most powerful woman on the face of planet Earth, which is an impressive stature there, I guess. I don't read Forbes, but okay. Anyway.
I don't really read.
No, I don't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like.
No, right. To educate yourself, that's not
I hate
fun.
it.
That's not fun. Yeah, no one likes that. Anyway, the last producer listed for this film is Giulia Marletta, Italian-born film and television producer. You know, she definitely has more of a producer's background traditionally, I would say, and involved in different genres and.
Right on. So real quick, Joe, did Dario write this film?
Yeah, he conceived of the story, and then the screenplay was written by Argento, Jace Anderson, and Adam Girish.
Right on. I was just curious. I mean, it seemed like he had probably written it, but it was such a departure from the first two films. I wanted to make sure.
Right.
Is that all the producers, JD?
Well, actually, there were a few other people, but they were like executive producers. So I just said, "Fuck them."
They don't matter.
Yeah, none of it mattered.
Right.
None of this matters.
And on to the plot for Mother of Tears. Our horror film begins with some fans of church and some construction workers exhuming the tomb of some 19th century holy official.
The exhumation was actually led by Monsignor Brusca, who was played by Franco Leo.
Thank you for that. And so, this casket is in the ground, coupled with a box-shaped urn. And so they open this box as if none of them had ever seen a horror movie before.
And the box was full of bees.
Yeah. Anyway, first off, you should always provide horror pretty much provides a template for what not to do. I'm just putting that out there.
Sure.
So, yeah. Inside this box, they discover some artifacts, including a magic cloak.
It's not a cloak. It's a tunic.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. I'm going to call it a cloak.
But it's not a cloak. It's a tunic.
Whatever.
A cloak has a hood on it.
Not necessarily.
It looked like something that Buzzo from the Melvins would wear on stage. It was pretty cool.
A cloak is kind of like a cape, but thicker.
Why don't we allow our listeners to watch Mother of Tears and decide for themselves what they'll call it?
Only if they'll go to the Discord and actually list what they think it is.
Incidentally, Wikipedia does refer to it as a cloak. So,
I mean, Wikipedia is wrong because it's definitely a tunic.
Well, okay. Then let's go in there and make a correction. I think the public can do that. Why don't you go and correct it? Call it a tunic.
Or just to die mad about it, you know?
Yeah, die mad about it. Why don't you? But don't do it anytime soon. Give it like another 40 years and then figure it out.
Just stew about it for the rest of your life.
Stew.
It's not a cloak.
You know, this time of year always makes me think about stew too. I really enjoy it.
Stew in the colder
crock
months.
Pot, right? Or pressure cooker. What do you use?
Crock pot usually, yeah.
Nice.
I have just edited the Wikipedia page. It now says, in particular, the box contains a magic tunic that, when worn by Mater Lacrimarum, increases her power significantly. So there you go.
Thank you. So now Joe and I can stop talking about stew and move back toward the...
I'd like to talk about stew, honestly.
You know, I'll catch you after the podcast and we can go over what, you prefer as ingredients and whatnot. So
I've been trying to shift us in that direction for a while.
Yeah, we're not doing that, Joe.
I know.
well, we're not yet a cooking podcast. Once we run out of 80s, 90s, early 2000s horror films, we might take that direction. But
Yeah.
So they unearth
They
a
did.
casket with a screaming corpse.
yes, and I was perplexed as to why that terrible posture was still going on with the skeleton. It had its jaws wide open and was just really... It looked like the person had been buried alive, but they explain it later. But my initial reaction was just like, oh shit, they were in there screaming. Anyway.
Oh, sure.
The box was opened, like I said, and all the artifacts inside were belongings of Mater
Lacrimarum.
Perfect. Lacrimarum. Let's go with that. And so anyway, there were these 3 statues inside that were like these kind of evil deities that would come to life later in the film. Yet, each of the statues represented the 3 mothers, who happened to be a trio of witches that practiced black magic in ancient days. And so they take the box and they ship it off to a museum for ancient art in Rome. And then we meet Sarah Mandy.
Played by Asia Argento.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Asia
Yeah.
Argento.
Who is not a very good person.
Yeah, she did some bad things, but she was a student studying art restoration. And she was also banging the curator of the museum named Michael Pierce.
Who was played by Adam James.
Yep. And they banged about a good many things throughout the film. This is a fairly sexually charged movie. There were lots of boobies.
Just to keep the audience from getting bored, I think.
Just to keep the audience from getting bored, they did include...
I don't think it was boring.
Well, it wasn't boring,
What's
but it
it
was
about
like...
that, though? It felt like they chucked nudity or violence in. Anytime the movie kind of got nervous that it was going to lose the crowd.
It's like it examined what horror did the previous decades and just injected the film with as much sex as there was violence.
Right.
And that's kind of a common thing in horror. So
Yeah.
And it sold. And so Sarah and the assistant curator open the box and examine the cloak or the tunic to make Kane happy, and a dagger, and then the 3 statues who represent each of the 3 witches. So Sarah takes off for a sec to grab a few items to help translate, the ancient messages found on the artifacts. And while Sarah's in the office, one of the coolest murder scenes I could even think of occur.
To Coralina Cataldi Tassoni, who played Giselle.
Yes, and yes, Giselle, I did not name her, but she was the curator's assistant. So anyway, the assistant curator gets her ass whooped by these demonic agents who turn old girl inside out. First, they stuff this crazy thing into her mouth, and it just like busts her palate out. It looked very realistic, and there was just an absurd amount of blood and other gooey substances along with the rupture. And so then they disembowel her. It ain't pretty. I mean, it was something. So Sarah comes back after the deed is done, and she returns to the grisly murder scene and then gets the fuck out of there, as you should. And then Sarah is basically, chased by this baboon who happens to be Martyr Lechiarum's familiar. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Mater Lacrimarum.
Lacrimarum. Okay, I'm not going to mess that up again.
That baboon was awesome.
Yeah, the baboon was something else. And I like how it fucking caught its beat down at the end of the film. That was kind of fun. But we'll get there. So yeah, this magical, mystical voice unlocks doors, allowing Sarah to escape right in the nick of time. And Sarah is now discussing the evening's matters with the Fuzz. She decides to stay the night with Michael and his son. And yeah, Michael, he wakes up and wants his little hot chocolate or whatever. And so she's telling Michael all the business.
All the business.
Yep, all the business. Michael pays a visit to the cardinal who sent the box, only to find out that the holy man suffered a severe stroke and is now in a coma. So the priest's assistant gives Michael a piece of paper that the cardinal wrote something down on before his health crisis.
And that's Tommaso Banfi, played Father Malisi, who is the assistant.
But that cardinal had scribbled the name of the Mater Lacrimarum, and then Michael is observed from a distance by a pair of spooky witches while leaving the hospital.
God is watching us from a distance.
Oh, I remember that song.
Yeah, from the 90s.
Yeah, that was a strange tune.
It wasn't good.
I thought it was, oh yeah, there was that, but then there was like, what if they were one of us or something like that? There was all kinds of tunes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry everybody. Anyway, back in Rome, there's a giant wave of unexplainable suicides, and it appears all hell is broken loose throughout the city.
Yeah, a lady takes her baby out of the carriage she's pushing it in and just flings it over the side of the bridge.
I
She
think she
fucking
just got tired of that baby. I don't
she
think that was
lost her
related.
mind.
Yeah, because she was real sad. She was crying after she did it, but
Oh,
she
yeah.
totally did it.
Yeah, because it hits the ledge of the
Yeah.
pier she was standing on,
Right,
so it
bounces.
like, yeah, and it was just like pop, crack, you know,
Thunk.
and then yeah, and then all of a sudden you just see it twirling down into this body of water.
Right. Although it was kind of a waste that they didn't have like a latex baby and have it like burst open when it bounced.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been something else, really. I mean,
might have been a little bit too far for like to release it to
but I
theaters,
think it would have been on par with the rest of the film.
Yeah, but it's different if it's a baby.
That's true, but this film, that's part of my theory on why even horror heads didn't like this one, because this film took a few steps over the line. And I dig that, though. I think that, and it didn't do it in like a human centipede sort of way. It
Right.
just, it did it in its own way, and I really didn't mind it. So anyway, the whole city, there's this massive rash of violence and murder. Everyone's freaking out. So now Sarah is getting into some research to figure out what the fuck is going on, and Michael has her come over. He's panicked a ton because his young son was just kidnapped by some witches, and they threaten to keep the child until their investigation ends. So they're like, you better cut that shit out or we'll whack your kid.
Put him in cement shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul sleeps with the fishes.
Right, and it wouldn't be the first kid to wind up in a body of water, so...
And Paul was played by Luca Pescatori.
Yep, he sure was. And so Sarah wants Michael to involve the authorities, but he's like, nah, fuck that. And they go visit a priest instead, who happens to also be a trained exorcist.
Well, I mean, Michael dips and goes to do that himself because Sarah's not into it. She's like, whatever, you're full of crap.
Well, right, like I said, she wanted to contact the authorities. He's like, no, I'm going to go do this, so... But anyway, Michael is spotted by the witches. They capture his dumbass, and basically he and his son are murdered. His son is cannibalized by the coven. They straight gobbled him up.
You see him eat the kid.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. But Michael, he ends up, you only think that he's a goner, but he reappears later. But we'll get to that. So yeah, they eat the kid. Sarah has a bad fucking day. The poor thing is being hunted by witches and the popo.
Yeah, and the cop that's hunting her is Detective Enzo Marchi, and he was played by Christian Solomino.
Yep. So she's being pursued. The crowd's kind of hustling and bustling. I would expect at that point in the film the crowd to be a little more aggro, being that, Rome is supposed to be popping off with evil.
Well, I mean, they are. If you look in the background of almost every scene when the actors are like wandering around the city, you see some of it's out of focus. I thought this was amazing, but you actually see people tussling and people fighting. And
Inside the train station, though, it looked like business as usual.
yeah, I mean, except for the witches.
Well, right. So anyway, they're in the train station. The cops are looking for her. The witches are looking for her. And then suddenly that magical voice, once again, provides more instruction to help her escape. She becomes invisible.
That magic voice was done by Daria Nicolodi, which is, she played Elisa Mandy.
Yeah.
And that is Asia Argento's mom.
That's so cool. Family ties. So yeah, she does end up getting trapped by a witch on her way to safety, and then she ends up killing the witch.
Brutally.
Yeah.
And that witch was actually played by June Ichikawa.
Oh, awesome. That was the one they called Katrina, right?
I didn't catch her name in the film.
Okay.
I didn't know that they gave her a name in the film. She was just the leader of the wild witches that were wandering the streets of Rome and happened to catch Sarah while they were out and about.
And then they caught an ass whooping.
Yeah, she did. Her head get squished.
Yep. Pretty squishy. I really enjoyed the special effects in this film. I was taken by them. I really was.
Yeah.
So cut to the home of the priest from earlier. Sarah meets someone named Marta, who is, she's like a white witch and also homegirls with Sarah's mama.
Marta was played by Valeria Cavalli.
Sarah now realizes that her mother's voice is the one guiding her each time she gets into some shit. And Marta finally gives Sarah the backstory on her parents. She learns that her mom is a powerful white witch, or she was a powerful white witch, who at one point challenged dark forces and wounded a dark magic witch named Mater Suspirium.
The mother of size.
So Suspirium was nobody to fuck with, man. She was like the oldest and nastiest and wisest of the three mothers. She was also responsible for the car wreck leading to the demise of Sarah's parents.
She was also the one that ran the dancing school in Suspiria.
Right. So Mater Suspirium and Martyr Tenebrarum are dead, but Lacrimarum, I'm gonna fuck that name
Lacrimarum.
up.
Lacrimarum.
All right. But Lacrimarum plans to use Rome as the hub of this new era of evil and black magic. So Sarah and Marta talk to this priest, but...
The priest was played by Udo Kier, who was Father Johannes.
But anyway, one of his patients murder his ass before he can give them a copy of that important book to explain Lacrimorum's backstory. So Sarah escapes to the city.
And I think it's important to note that the young lady that was kind of his ward eats her own child. He finds her eating her own child. She then pulls out a meat cleaver and cuts his throat and just sprays blood everywhere.
And that scene was incredible. She's like chopping his head with this cleaver on the staircase. I mean, it was...
And then as a sacrifice to Mater Lacrimarum, she cuts her own throat as well.
Which was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed the slash to his Achilles tendon. That was a fun...
Yeah. It had a very... Honestly, I'll be honest, it felt less like a Argento kill and more like a Fulci kill.
Yeah, there was that had some Fulci notes playing in the background for sure. I mean, it was solid. I enjoyed myself. Anyway, Sarah escapes to the city back home, but finds some cronies of oh my god.
Mater Lacrimarum.
Lacrimarum. So they're her cronies waiting to snuff her out. So she stupidly goes over to Marta's place where her and her lover are murdered.
There's a whole lot that happens there, JD.
Well, why don't you go ahead and unpack that?
So she goes to Marta's house and is telling her, like, hey, the things were there. I saw shadows under the door and whatnot. And so Marta, she uses like her focus for magic is like a powder, like a makeup powder kit. So she pulls it up and she like blows some of the makeup out, right?
That was just cocaine, I think.
No. And Sarah actually sees her mother. She gets to actually talk to and see her mother. And then Marta's like, hey, you've had a rough day. Why don't you get some sleep? And then tomorrow I'll take you to this alchemist. And in the night, the creepy monkey shows up. Sarah wakes up and she rushes out of the house. And I thought she was dipping. I thought she was just leaving those poor women to their fate. But she actually goes down to a payphone that was like right outside the building and calls and wakes them up. But it's not enough. And the bad guys come in and they murder her. Marta right. And Marta's lover.
And she hears that spooky sound through the phone and then it tries to rip the cord out of the phone booth. So real quick, what species do we believe that to be? Is it a monkey?
It's a baboon. It's a
baboon. Okay, because we were in debate over it for a bit. But Joe, do you believe it to be a baboon as well?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm not a biologist, so I had to look at other pictures of other baboons before I was like, oh, it's definitely a baboon.
Yeah, and
although it
baboons
didn't have
play.
the red butt. It didn't have the red butt that you normally see, or the like blue and white that you see around the eyes.
But I don't think that's always a characteristic of all baboons. Like I think there are subspecies of baboons, and they'd never really turned it around to show us its dumps. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what it had to back up with.
I mean, it looked like a baboon. As far as I'm concerned, it's a baboon. You know what, listener? If you know that that's not a baboon and that we're a bunch of idiots,
Which we are.
feel free to let us know.
Yeah, and like see if you could take a good look at its badonkadonk if you get
It was a
chance.
spry little shite though that caused a lot of trouble.
It really was.
Wikipedia calls it a baboon for whatever that's worth.
Are you on the wiki right now?
Wiki wiki.
What does it say in the first part of the plot? In particular, the box contains a what?
It says tunic now.
Nice.
Nice
I did
correction. That's my guy Kane. That's my friend. So yeah, Sarah runs away and she gets flagged down by Michael, who takes her
she
back.
flags Michael down.
Well, whatever. She winds up with Michael.
I mean, that's the opposite.
They go
of what you
back
said.
to his place for. Say it again.
Nothing. Keep talking.
No. I just if I'm incorrect, I appreciate the corrections.
You're
I do.
fine. I'm just being a butthole. Carry on.
No, it's cool.
Be a buttholes.
That's okay. We're all here for it. We're all clearly a butthole trifecta.
The 3 buttholes trilogy.
Yes, the 3 buttholes. That's us.
Oh God! All right, continue. She meets up
Anyway,
with Michael.
He takes her back to his place for a night of passionate lovemaking.
That's not true.
I threw that in there to grab everyone's attention.
Oh, I see what you did. That's very clever, JD. Very clever.
Oh, like
So-
when a YouTuber will deliberately make a mistake so that people comment about it and draw engagement.
No, he was doing what the movie did, Joe.
Yeah, I was mirroring. It's a
God, pay
technique.
attention.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Never
That's okay,
pay
it's
attention
okay.
to What we're talking about.
Joe checked out like about 34 minutes ago.
I think Joe checked out about 2.5 hours ago.
I drift. Sometimes I'm here. Sometimes I'm
Wait, now tell the people what video game you were playing during the watch party.
Tetris.
Tetris? That's not what I heard.
All right. Well, she meets up with Michael and they go upstairs. They can't go to her apartment because the bad guys are there, right? So
I
they
was
go.
bullshitting about the lovemaking. It didn't happen. But Michael was dead, and he was reanimated by evil forces.
By Herbert West.
Wait, what was the name of the witch that animated him, JD?
Lacrimorum.
Hey!
Did I say it correctly?
Yeah, I mean, Lacrimarum.
Lacrimorum.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So yeah, yet again, it is the magic of Lacrimorum. She's back at it. So Michael is basically a zombie backed by witchy spells, and he demands Sarah's blood.
Essentially.
Sarah's mom drags Michael to hell, or somewhere like it.
Well, I mean, Sarah sets him on fire first. She dumps lighter fluid on him and then sets him on fire, which was a pretty good fire effect.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was CGI or not, but
I don't think so. I mean,
the body.
so basically what you're saying is Sarah's action of lighting him on fire was the key, but Sarah's mom was the door that helped to kind of pull him through into hell.
Well, I wanted to talk about real quick. I wanted to talk about the fact that you didn't see the like bulky fire retardant stuff that you normally see in fire scenes.
Right.
So that's why I was having a hard time. Like, man, is that CGI?
Right.
Or did they actually set somebody on fire? I
They
couldn't
just set
tell.
somebody on fire. That actor did not survive the making of this film.
So Adam James is not with us anymore.
It was a human sacrifice to have better special effects than usual.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he chases her around and then mom pulls him to hell. Do you think mom got sent to hell as well by taking him to hell?
We could have a whole other conversation. It could be a whole other episode of this podcast.
I don't think it needs to be. Like, all right, so he was animated by the witch. It wasn't him. He was under control of the witch, right?
Well, that's
Right.
what I said earlier. Yeah.
So then why do both of them go to hell?
I'm going to go with it's an Argento movie, and sometimes shit happens that doesn't make any fucking sense in Argento movies.
Touche.
Argento doesn't have to explain that to us.
Exactly.
It owes us no explanation.
All right, JD. So Michael and Elisa are in hell now, and Sarah's fully in.
Yep. And so she seeks out this alchemist.
The alchemist was played by Felipe Leroy.
And yes, this alchemist has some great powers. And he was referred to Marta earlier in the film as the only one basically with the power to actually fight off Marta Lacrimorum.
Well, to find the Mother of Tears.
Right. He also had the power of voodoo.
Who do?
Voodoo?
You do.
Have the power to fight off the Mother of Tears?
Yeah.
I saw my baby crying hard as babes could cry.
All right.
We have fun.
Yeah, we do. So anyway, the alchemist temporarily paralyzes Sarah to test and see if she's a good witch or a bad one. I think he was a little distrusting, but the only help the alchemist really offers is Lacrimarum's dwellings and a copy of Three Mothers, the one that she was supposed to get.
Yeah. Just the lore that ties this movie to the other two movies in the series, basically.
Yeah, so here's something funny. Anya Pironi, who played Mother Lacrimarum in the movie Inferno, was actually asked to reprise her role in this movie, but she was like, I can't, I have like 5 kids.
That'll do it.
Oh, she was momming out.
Yep.
So yeah, between this, the ancient book and spying on some witches, Sarah finds Martyr Lacrimorum's lair, which is a dilapidated old mansion. That was a cool looking place.
That was a really cool set.
Yeah, all 3 of the houses have been very interesting in this trilogy.
And visually speaking, it was the best part of the film.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, especially, well, outside was gorgeous, but once inside, there's where you just get some really breathtaking catacombs and some real spooky shit. So Sarah is now joined by one of the police officers who was hunting her down.
Detective Enzo.
Yep, Detective Enzo. So she becomes friendzo with Enzo. And the two of them... All right, come on, I had to.
Wah, wah.
The two of them head into the catacombs of Lacrimarum.
Not before meeting one of the most annoying characters ever. Well, they didn't actually meet him. They just witnessed him.
Yeah.
Oh, the 80s punk with the shaved head.
Oh, that guy was real tough
Straight
to
out
deal
of
with.
the 80s.
And then the guy who talked like Grandpa Simpson.
The hobo was great. I loved him. He was great.
I once wore an onion on my belt. It was the style of the time.
Right. But the bald tough, like witches tough, was awful to deal with.
I wore a dress in the 40s.
Oh, wait. Did he? Yeah, I think he did say that once. Anyway.
Yep.
Going to the catacomb.
Oh, yes. The catacombs. So, yeah, the two of them head to the catacombs of Mater Lacrimorum, and they are quickly separated, and Enzo gets the business alongside the alchemist and one of his assistants, who grotesquely loses an arm.
And dies screaming.
Yes, very much so. And it's chopped off by one of Lacrimarum's minions. So Sarah is finally captured and now stands before Lacrimarum and becomes a cannibal offering.
Yep. She's like laying under Detective Enzo, who's been stabbed with a spear, and
Oh, yeah.
he's not in a good way. He did kill the annoying 80s guy,
Yeah.
and then he shot the hobo in the face.
Someone had to. I really did kind of miss that hobo once he was gone, though.
Yeah.
So Sarah uses the spear to disrobe Lacrimorum, and she kind of like takes her
Tunic.
cloak/tunic off and
Hey man, the
tosses
wiki
it.
says that it's tunic, all right?
Says you, says the wiki says.
Fucking dork.
I know, right? Let's go in there and change it again to bed sheets.
No, it's just going to get shut down.
Let's not do that then, because that was useful. So she tosses the tunic into the fire. Did that make you happy? I said tunic.
Yes.
Just tunic.
Yes. All right. Yes.
I'm imagining the smile on your face right now. It shines. Anyway, the stirring of all this evil shit causes the decrepit mansion to begin collapsing around them. And Sarah and Enzo escape by an eyelash and have a good laugh together about it as they turn up virtuous over evil forces just outside of the mansion. I'm not sure exactly how they got it. Was that like a sewer cap or something?
Maybe, but they were definitely cracked. That's what that laughter. That wasn't the laughter of joy. That was the laughter of you can't go back now. Like you've
Right. Your mind is somewhere in there. And
you've
now
been
you're-
Lovecrafted. That's what just happened.
Exactly. The shell of you is now outside, just reacting in its lizard brain.
Yep.
And that is all I have to say at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean that works.
Yeah.
So what I will say is that the music was done by Claudio Simonetti and definitely didn't have the punch or the power that the first two films had with Goblin.
Although wasn't Claudio Simonetti in Goblin?
Yeah, but they didn't do.
No, I agree with you completely. I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, you would think that he would have still brought the same, but it was like a 90s TV show is what the
Sure.
music sounded like to be. A few times it got epic, a few times it got real cool, but I think the other members of Goblin should
Sure.
have probably been there to help him get that sound.
Yeah, like I almost can't help but wonder if the moments when the soundtrack was really cool and interesting, if it was just like an unrelated band that was doing music for the movie.
That's possible.
I did rather enjoy the soundtrack to this. Like you as mentioned, it was very 90s sounding, but it was also very cool. It sat well with what we were seeing.
Yeah, because they did like a reunification for Tenebrae in 1982. Their last collaboration with Argento was in 2001 with the film Sleepless.
Oh, yeah, I was right. The piece at the end that sounded real cool was in fact Claudio Simonetti's other band, Demonia.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
we solved that mystery.
Yep.
Apparently Danny Filth recorded a song with Simonetti for the soundtrack as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, let's talk about the special effects. Let's get to the meat of that.
Let's get
It
to
was a
it.
meaty movie.
It was indeed.
Very much so, a meaty movie. The main players behind the special effects to this film are Danilo Bolentini and Sergio Stivoletti. And we've discussed both of them on this podcast in fairly great detail, but I'll go on with a slight refresher course. Stivoletti is known to be one of the greatest European special effects artists, possibly of all time. I mean, he's up there and revered as possibly the GOAT. His career began in the early 80s with flicks like Demons, Demons 2, The Church. His work pretty much wanders consistently, lots of horror, lots of grotesque shit into present day. And currently, he is in pre-production on a film titled Black Glasses, and that's set to be created in 2022. And guess who directs that one? Dario Argento.
Wonder how 81-year-old hasn't really been in the game that much recently. I wonder how that Argento is going to fare against 2008.
Guess we'll find
Argento.
out.
Well, I mean, he took a 14-year break, so it'll be 15 by the time they get to 2022. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a long time to be on the bench.
I'm kind of excited.
I'm excited too.
I really would love to see a new Argento.
Yeah, maybe the older he gets, the more twisted his mind becomes or something, because Mother of Tears was pretty demented. There was a gory fucking film, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. The other special effects artist I need mention is Danilo Bolentini. He was involved, though, with way less horror, but still prolific in his craft. Lots of like action stuff and, spread across multiple genres. So as far as the special effects themselves go, I was impressed with the lack of CGI and the prevalence of the prosthetic effects and the goo and the gore, the anatomy, the showing the inside of the body, like the scene where it was Marta, right, that was disemboweled?
No, that was Giselle.
Oh, Giselle. Anyway, I got a little lost. I think there was some stunning visual effects, though, in that film that kind of just, I don't know, made me get lost in what was going on at times.
Well, that and the movie just kind of dragged on in certain points.
So I think out of the three of us, the reason that Joe sounds so kind of despondent is I think Joe had a much worse time than JD and I.
I'm also very tired for unrelated reasons, but
Right.
yeah.
But these were good gore effects. A lack of CGI. I mean, there was some there, like the shot at the hobo at the end, and then the pillar stabbing the Mother of Tears was definitely CGI'd.
Yeah, and I think they showed a lot of gore, but they also implied a lot of gore. Like, for example, they didn't show the spear entering that woman laying on her back on the ground.
Which is good, because that's like one of the worst scenes in the movie.
Yeah, that was the only moment that felt gratuitous to me.
Yeah, there was some exploity kind of weirdness in that, but also, and when they drove the spear in a good bit further, and then you do see the head of the spear poke out through her mouth.
Right.
I thought that was really incredible. And the corresponding amount of blood was awesome.
Sure.
It was a little marred because they could have done that in many different ways.
Sure.
And they chose that one, I think, shocking for shocking's sake and not in service to the film.
But to be fair, that's often a thing that horror does.
Yes, I agree, but it's still gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I like it better when horror terrifies me without having to
show you too much.
Well, not even, it's not about showing me too much. I'm fine with seeing all of the badness, but the exploitation stuff just gets under my skin. I just think
Sure.
it's like cheap scares. It's like cheap shock values is what it feels like.
Yeah.
So of all the kills in the movie, that one was the one where I was like, really? Like, you had such a good thing going. You had a lot of attacks and like violence happening in the streets, and you had implied things that were going to happen, but you completely steered away from all of that and focused on just like the murder, right?
Right.
And this one scene, you're like, oh, this is a horrifying thing for anyone to think of happening, and we're just going to do it like this. Yeah, I thought that was unnecessary.
And that must have been another strike against the film for many horror fans, not just you, but for many horror fans, because I know this film was not loved by the majority.
It's a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
All right, we got anything else on special effects?
Well, that pretty much covers it.
All right, Joe, why don't you give us your sleepy personal experience with the film?
Yeah, I thought this movie was fine. It didn't have the style or the artistry of the other two movies in the trilogy.
Agreed.
And I was kind of let down by that because it made it, in a lot of ways, it just made it feel like a horror movie. It was a good horror movie. Like, I'm not like, oh, it sucked, fuck it. But it didn't have the visual quality that the other movies in the trilogy did.
We've come to expect things from Dario Argento,
Exactly. Yeah.
and he didn't deliver those things for you.
It felt a little more formulaic than other Argento movies. I think that the lore of the Three Mothers movies is very interesting.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things of it.
Yeah, and that was super cool. But yeah, like it was fine. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about it for that reason. It's just like, yeah, it was fine. The gore was good.
All right, JD.
Yes.
Describe your personal experience with the film.
Yeah.
I will indeed. Yes. I enjoyed this movie. I walked into it just hearing naysaying and negative things, reading some negative things, but as far as my experience goes, I really enjoyed it. And it wasn't just because, you're being pleasantly surprised hearing something bad and then finding out that it's in fact a pleasurable experience. I just genuinely enjoyed this movie. I loved the special effects. I thought the story was pretty cool. There were points where it did drag on. This was my first time seeing it. Obviously, Suspiria and Inferno are in my collection. I love those films. But yeah, I think I'm going to add this to my physical collection of DVDs, which sounds pretty silly in 2021, but I'm very tempted.
I like physical copies of things.
I do too. I'm a bit of a horror film collector, and that's just my bag, and that's what I do. I would also like to mention real quick that it's a little bit away from my personal experience with the film, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there that tomorrow is Halloween, and also this month marks the 1-year anniversary of the Butcher Block Horror Podcast existing.
It's true. It's true.
We've been alive and well for a year, and that's it. That's really it. We're there. We're here.
Cool,
right.
Cool.
We're everywhere.
Nice.
So yeah, Kane, grace us with your perceptions.
All right. So before I tell you about my personal experience with the film, I would like to note, right, that there were multiple scripts that existed for this film since the 80s. All right. The first script was written by Daria Nicolodi, who played Alyssa Mandy in the movie and is Asia Argento's mom.
Nickelodeon. I'm going to correct you now for all of the. No, I'm just kidding. I had it coming.
So is it Nickelodeon?
It is.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, Nickelodeon.
Yeah. All right. So Nickelodeon, she wrote a script, and it was not used in whole or part for this movie, right?
I did discuss some of this during the Inferno episode, but I do appreciate that you giving us more details.
And then Argento had a script written in 2003, right? And it was originally going to be set in Rome with the Mater Lacrimarum in the Middle Ages.
Mhm.
And he wanted to actually cast a Russian model as the role of her. And then finally, there was an Anderson and Giersch script, which again, it was delayed again.
Yeah.
Right.
So with that being said, I'm really curious what the 1980s version of this movie looked like.
Yeah, I'd be interested to at least read that script.
Exactly, because I imagine that it would have been more in line with Inferno and Suspiria. But overall, when Joe and I met, because we got here before JD, we were grumbling because we were like, ugh,
God damn.
I've heard this movie is terrible, and Asia Argento is a questionable individual that has definitely committed some bad things. Like, this is all around. I want to finish it. I want to finish the series, but I'm not expecting this to be good. This is going to be miserable. And I was pleasantly surprised. I pretty much had fun the entire time, except for the spear scene. I thought the spear scene was gross
Sure.
and unnecessary to carry the story along. But the special effects were fantastic. The acting was, you know what? It wasn't great. It wasn't great. But overall, I would say that this is a pretty damn good movie and worth a watch, because especially if you've seen the other two movies, because it does it puts a bow on it and calls it a day.
I feel like that's a reason to watch it. Just if you want to watch the trilogy, then watch the trilogy.
But I mean, don't skip even if you didn't really like Suspiria or Inferno, if you like just horror movies, this is going to be a good one to add to your list to watch.
Absolutely.
I would actually like to see a prequel.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
I would really like to know like how the mothers got together, what started them on their journey. Like, I want to know that stuff. I think that would be a lot of fun. But aside from that, I don't have anything else to say. It was a great time. I enjoyed the film. That's it. You guys have anything else to say?
No, I would also like to see the director who remade Suspiria in 2018 just do the whole trilogy. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be fun, because I really liked the remake. I thought it was really good.
Me too. That's all.
All right. If you've watched Mother of Tears, let us know what you think. You can find us at most places podcasts live. We also have a website, we give you brainworms.com, as well as a playlist at the Brainworms Presents YouTube, where you should not forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
And click the bell.
Yeah,
And happy Halloween, everybody. I can't say that enough.
have a safe and happy Halloween.
It's true. Check your
And-
candy before you eat it. It might have drugs.
Or razor blades.
And next week, we're going to be talking about puppeteering in horror.
Halloween Kills was the shit, by the way. You should go see it.
Yes, Halloween Kills was great. I loved it. All right, real quick, go see Halloween Kills. You could either see it on Peacock, or you could take the risk and go to the theater. And then we'll definitely need to have a discussion about that. But that's it for today.
Woo!
Have a good one. Happy Halloween. Be
Happy
safe.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween!
Well, you can catch us next week.
And the Butcher Block loves you, baby. You got a tickle in your lacrimorum over there?